This week on Lunchbox Envy, there is a variety beginning with every letter of the alphabet except X.
Hungarian children are told that eating them will help them learn to whistle.
And the longest one ever grown stretched to 20 feet.
It's carrots. Hello and welcome to Lunchbox Envy. I'm Jack and I'm here with my fellow QI elf Manu and chef and food writer Rosie. How are you both?
Very good, thank you. Lovely to see you both.
Lovely to see you too.
Lovely to see you too.
We've done a lot of orange food recently.
Yeah, we have.
I do really like carrots, and I really like, do you know what I love? I love a pickled carrot.
Ooh.
Really?
Like
I don't know if
Vietnamese style,
Oh, they
you
are
know,
good.
with sugar and fish sauce and that's
Okay.
good stuff, that.
They are famously, or at least in my circles, the cheapest thing per kilo you can put on the self-scanner machine.
I read articles about this. It's like a classic self-scanner scam.
Oh, really?
food.
You just put loads of carrots down and pretend that you're buying
No, you
carrots?
put your champagne down
yeah.
and pretend it's carrots.
Oh.
Because it's the cheapest thing per kilo, I think.
Oh, that's really clever. I've never thought of doing that. No one would come for me either because I always have a baby with me.
Oh, it's foolproof. Okay.
So what is a carrot? I mean, in nature, they don't just lie on the ground orange and straight like that, do they?
Nah. So they are a herbaceous taproot. That's what we're eating. So herbaceous in the sense that they don't have
Woody
a kind of
stems.
exactly like a rose. I thought it meant it was a herb. That's not the case. So the carrots that we get in the supermarket have been quite heavily processed in that they have had their hair lopped off, which is a big shame. So when they're grown by farmers, they're grown in the ground. And they have an edible taproot, that's the bit that's hidden under the soil. And then they have a beautiful kind of flourishing stem, lots of amazing greenery that grows above the ground. The bit that we eat, it's a kind of storage system for the plant that kind of collects all of the nutrients and then can help it last through really, really long winters by kind of keeping all of those carbs and minerals in the root. So that's what we're eating, is like basically a massive larder for the plant.
Right.
Does that make
Plant
sense?
larder.
Yeah.
When I was doing I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and I had to put fake wacky ingredients in a trough to give the celebrities, I used to call everything a taproot because all the producers just wanted to see that it wasn't a carrot. I just get some like heritage carrots and be like, purple taproots. And they were like, yeah, perfect. That's so good.
The etymology of carrot.
Yes. Yeah, I looked into this. It's ultimately, I mean, okay, so in English we get it from the French, carotte, and then they get it from the Latin, which is carotus. And that ultimately comes from the Proto-Indo-European root cur, which means a horn. So they're horn-shaped. And the word cur is also used for like keratin and ceratops. So triceratops is a three-horned animal, cur. And also rhinoceros, the cur is the cur.
Oh,
It's a horn.
I see. That's
So it's the horny fruit.
Very Freud. Yeah.
Where do we think carrots are from?
I'm going to go in reverse alphabetical order. Zimbabwe,
No.
Zambia.
Uzbekistan.
What shall I do the other way? Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
I would have been there ages if I'd gone all the way.
Yeah, so carrots we think are from Afghanistan.
That's amazing.
Central Asia region. And we've been growing them for a really, really long time. Carrot specialists. There's actually quite a lot of people that are obsessed with carrots. Think that they were domesticated around 1000 Common Era.
That's amazing that it's because I see Afghanistan as quite an exotic country from where we're standing, and carrots are so mundane and British to me. So it's interesting.
But I think, I don't know about that. Like in certainly like Central Asian, Middle Eastern cuisines, African even, they are used so much more boldly than we do. And they really honour the carrot in a way that we're not very good at doing, I think. That's what that's my 2 cents.
I'm with you.
I actually do remember seeing in my research that their national dish for Afghanistan is called Kabuli Palau. And it's a rice dish with lots of lamb and delicious spices, but also loads and loads of carrot.
Ooh,
and
nice.
looks really good. Carrot in rice, really delicious. Grate your carrot in your rice, quick rice cooker recipe. As you know, I'm obsessed with my rice cooker. grate a carrot into your rice, whatever rice it might be, and cook it. Oh, delicious. Very sweet.
Ooh,
Carrots do have quite a lot of sugar, don't they, naturally?
so much sugar.
Carrots are umbellifers, so the adjective is umbelliferous. I really like the
What
word.
is that? What does that mean?
It means carrot-like. It's the same root as umbrella. They look like, their flowers look like umbrellas.
Oh, that's really nice.
So,
I don't think I've
these
ever
are
seen a
umbellifers.
carrot flower.
You will have done in hedgerows in Britain, but you just might not have known that they're carrots.
You're probably more likely to see wild carrot flowers, which are everywhere apparently. I didn't know this until this week, but apparently they are prolific and they look kind of like elderflower blossoms.
Yeah.
And you can eat them in the same way.
Really?
So the actual root, so the ancestor of the carrots that we now eat are this wild carrot, but the actual root was so bitter you wouldn't want to cook with it. But the flowers, completely delicious. Batter those, fry them. You've got yourselves a good little snack.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds so good.
I read that they were originally domesticated for their seeds and the tops
Because the bulb was
because
just
it was too bitter
Too
and small.
bitter.
And now I think it's a bit odd and it's a bit of a shame that we throw away the tops and eat the bottoms. It's an amazing example of selective breeding that we've come from that over the very many centuries to like a perfectly straight, I almost don't need to peel that. I don't peel my carrots most of the time. I read that they're biennial, which means that when you plant a seed, it will grow throughout the summer and the carrot below ground will also grow. But it doesn't flower until the next year. So it has to survive a winter, which is
Right.
quite rare because we often think of plants as having an annual cycle. You know, they grow in the spring and then they flower in the summer and then they fruit and then they die. And like I say, they grow from seed and they'll grow this taproot and the stalk above ground and some leaves, but then they'll sort of basically hibernate and try and survive the winter.
right.
And
I
then
mean, I feel you, carrots. I've been doing that all
you've
winter.
got your own taproot. So then in their second year of life, they resume growing when the weather gets warm and then they flower and produce seeds and then they die at the end of the second summer. So if you want the carrot seeds and you're a farmer, you have to wait until the second year. So to give the plants a head start or a little helping hand over winter and to make sure the taproot isn't reduced, a lot of farmers will dig them up and store them inside for the winter,
Oh,
like cows.
Whoa.
And then they'll
they're basically bringing in the animals.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
These edible taproots are known as stecklings.
Oh, that's so cute.
And often they'll pack them into sandy boxes and put them in a little warehouse or
So
shed.
blankets.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then they'll replant them in the spring so they can grow a huge, bushy, like beautiful umbelliferous stalk which produces seeds.
Nice. That's so much faff.
Well,
I love
yeah,
it.
I mean, they'll only do it if it's commercially viable, but it's
Cute.
it's a good way to like keep your carrot plant from eating all of its carroty goodness over winter.
I also read that they didn't start as orange.
They
This
did
is
not.
correct.
No. So it's actually the wild carrot is pretty white. It's really light in color.
Looks like a parsnip.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. But there is a clue into how they became purple, the first varieties we ate. So in that incredible flowery umbrella that they have, there is usually a single purple flower
In the middle.
slap bang in the middle of it. So there's a researcher called Philip Simon, who is a USDA geneticist and horticulturalist, and he says it's probably women who were responsible for breeding sweet, edible purple carrots from these really bitter wild varieties.
That's
And they
right.
used this flower as a kind of indication of which particular ones were going to be sweeter. And then you can see as they become more and more purple underground, the flowers on the top also became more purple.
Oh, so you can tell.
super purple carrots tend to have purple blooms and they look stunning.
Yeah. So the curtains match the drapes. No, what's the phrase?
Oh,
I feel
come
like
on.
the aphrodisiacs episode has slipped.
There's a hangover of
Yeah.
aphrodisiac chat here.
Okay, it's time for our first lunchbox, and this week that comes from Rosie.
A bowl of bolognese.
Oh, it looks great.
I didn't mix it with any pasta. I was too lazy. Sorry. When you cook your bolognese, what do you normally start with?
Olive oil in the pan, turn it up to medium heat, onions, carrot and celery.
Right. onions, carrot, and celery. Carrot, celery, and onion. I'm sure you're all familiar with that trinity, vegetable trinity. Even if you're not particularly foodie, you're not much of a chef, you might have noticed that a lot of dishes start with those three vegetables. There is actually a name for it. Well, there's a name in many languages for it. But I'm going to refer to it mostly as a mirepoix or a sofrito, which are the French and Italian names respectively.
Right, and they're the same.
They are the same. So onions, carrot, and celery are the base, the foundation, the aromatic beginnings of thousands and thousands and thousands of dishes, right? That's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to tell you what a sofrito or a mirepoix does and why carrots are in it. Before we dig into that, shall we have a mouthful of bolognese?
Yes, please.
Just raw dogs and bolognese. Oh, that's good stuff, that.
Making a really
I
nice
do make a nice
noise.
bolognese. Now, I should say to begin with, this is a British bolognese.
Okay.
This is not a traditional from Bologna bolognese, because there's very much a difference, I think, in the sort of texture and flavour. Cover your ears, Italians. British bolognese, of course, involves Worcester sauce. The vegetables are chunkier. You might notice there's lots of carrot
I can see.
in my bolognese.
Apart from onions smelling amazing and tricking everyone into thinking you can cook, the other two, I'm like, are you there for bulk? Maybe a bit of sugar?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think definitely for sugar with carrots. Like, they are 100% a sweetener. They do actually give colour. For example, like if you were to make a risotto with chopped carrot in, it wouldn't end up perfectly white at the end. You would have a slightly orangier. There's plenty of colour that leaches into the oil.
Okay.
And in fact, in Italian recipes that call for something in bianco, sometimes, often, that will mean skipping carrot and skipping tomato,
Interesting.
so that it is not coloured red. So firstly, in mirepoix, the ratios are 2 to 1 to 1. 2 onions to 1 carrot to 1 celery. Onions are savoury, sulfuric, umami. They do cook down and become sweet, it's true, but ultimately their profile is definitely more on the meaty, savoury end of things. Celery, herbal, fragrant, grassy. I actually think celery is the best of the three. That's my most
That is
essential one. And that just tells me I'm a better cook than you two, the fact that you react like that. But okay.
I just think it's the most fiddly to chop.
Carrots are primarily there for sweetness. They're very honeyed flavored when they're cooked down. Also quite floral. I don't know if you ever noticed that about a carrot, but like they can be a little bit more on the perfumed side of things versus onion and celery. I found a really nice quote from an author called Michael Pollan, who is a journalist and professor, and he writes about the socio-cultural impact of food. And his book, Cooked, A Natural History of Transformation, which I now want to buy because it sounds like a very good book.
If you can't be bothered to read it, you should watch his Netflix series.
And if
I
you can't be
should.
bothered to watch that, he's condensed his advice into like one sentence. Have you heard this one?
No.
It's eat real food, mostly plants, not too much.
Nice.
I like it. It's
quite good.
succinct. So he talks about how like mirepoix and sofritos are often used in pot dishes. And he says pot dishes are about marrying lots of prosaic little things rather than elevating one big thing. In fact, it's the precise combination of these chopped up plants that usually gives a pot dish its characteristic flavour and cultural identity, which I particularly like the bit about cultural identity because I think that you can tell or you can kind of change the angle of a dish by switching out one of those ingredients.
Because it's the first thing you typically do, right?
Yeah.
Is you start by sauteing the
So if you
sofrito.
start with a mirepoix on carrot, onion and celery, you are heading in the direction of French, Italian.
When you're cooking it, do you just bung them all in at the same time?
Depends what you're making.
Okay.
So I had to do a whole class on this when I did in culinary school. Literally, mirepoix lesson 101. You would chop your vegetables according to the cooking time of the dish you are making. So basically, if you're making like a really long, slow cooked stock braise, something like that, you do not want small pieces of veg in there because they will break down. They will potentially muddy your sauce. They'll be really hard to take out if you're looking to make something very refined at the end. And also, like they'll just cook too quickly versus everything else. If you're making something like a bolognese, I do like to have my vegetables quite, relatively fine chop on those. No bigger than the mince, I think, because texturally that would be a sort of a clang for me if I chomped on a massive piece of carrot with a small piece of mince. When I had my mirepoix class, I was told a celery and carrot chunk will take slightly longer than an onion. But having said that, you actually want your onions to be more cooked than your celery and carrot often in these reactions. Sometimes like you want a really like softly caramelized onion, but you might not want to caramelize the rest of it. It depends basically. As a rule of thumb, it's not that deep to just put it all in at the same time. I'm certainly not holding back any of my mirepoix anymore.
Question.
Yes.
Could you just blend these three vegetables
puree.
and fry that?
You definitely can.
Oh, and that would be a mirepoix base.
Yeah. As if it's for something where a very fine texture is required, there's no problem doing that. I do that all the time.
That's so useful. So you can literally just get the Holy Trinity, whack them in a blender, boosh.
Yeah.
Done.
Mirepoix, by the way, is named after the 18th century French aristocrat. This is a mouthful. Charles Pierre Gaston Francois de Lévis, Duc de Lévis Mirepoix.
Okay.
He was alive 1699 to 1757.
Great.
And it was a term coined by his chef, not by him, of course, because he is a duke. He was a diplomat, basically.
And is a sofrito the same thing?
Sofrito in Italian, careful. There's also a sofrito in Spanish. Sofrito is translated from the word soffriggere, and that means to basically softly fry.
Got it.
Saute, as it were. Not hard fry, not deep fry, softly fry.
But it's the same.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same
onions,
ingredients and roughly the same ratios. If you're going to go further than that and add more ingredients, in French food, you would maybe see stuff like celeriac and leeks. And in Italian food, you'd probably see more stuff like fennel. But I did a bit of research onto like vegetable trinities because I just think, as I said, they tell you so much about where a dish is going at the start. Like I would love to do a game show where I just come in and there's a board of ingredients out and I have to guess what the people are making because I think I'd be really good at it.
It's
firstly,
like reverse ready steady.
it's literally reverse ready steady cook. Yeah. Spain, they have a sofrito 1T different. It's tomatoes, onion, and garlic. In Germany, they have Suppengrün, soup greens,
Okay.
which is actually carrots, leek, and celeriac.
Right.
There is the Cajun Holy Trinity, very famous pillar in Cajun cookery, so the south of the States, like Louisiana area, which is onion, green bell pepper, and celery. And then I had a look about a few other culinary trinities that I could think of. So Turkish is onion, garlic, and tomato paste, like their deeply cooked tomato salchisa, I think it's called. Chinese, you'd maybe argue, is garlic, ginger, and spring onion. I could also throw a chili in there maybe, but yeah.
In all of these trinities, is onion usually the dominant like two of the one?
It is. It does seem to be the one that comes through the most, and I think we spoke about that on the onion recipe, that it is the most widely grown vegetable in the whole wide world, isn't it? So it makes sense, really. Polish, they have... God,
You can do it.
Włoszczyzna. It translates as Italian stuff. Carrots, leeks, and celeriac, again, so named after the Princess Bona Sforza, Queen of Poland, who was married to Sigismund I, who came from Milan and brought with her a load of Milanese chefs. And that kind of created a bit more of a fusion of Italian-Polish food at the time.
Nice.
Persian, you might see onion, turmeric, and tomato paste.
Oh.
West African is maybe actually not a trinity, it's a quadruplet. Onions, tomatoes, Scotch bonnets, and peppers.
Quartet.
A quartet. Thank you very much. That's right. Oh, and in Indian food, onion, garlic, and ginger. So that's sofrito, mirepoix. But a separate thing I wanted to talk about was the use of carrots in cake. Specifically, carrot cake, which
Yes.
I'm sure we're all familiar with.
Are we fans?
Oh, the best cake.
Oh, my favourite cake. I had it for my
Really?
30th birthday as my cake. I think it's probably divisive, a carrot cake, because they are usually quite heavily spiced and that sometimes puts people off. But for me, someone with a very sophisticated and cool palate like yours, Manu, that's a lovely way to do a cake.
Oh, it's just so moist. Vegetable cakes. Like one of the only chocolate cakes I like is a courgette chocolate cake.
Very good cake. So the reason why a carrot cake is super moist is because carrots, they hold onto moisture, and that ensures a moist and tender crumb when you bake with a carrot or any vegetable really, but particularly in this case, carrots. They also develop a more intense flavor when they're baked. They caramelize inside the cake almost. So they got that really like lovely honey flavor and complements all of those spices in that cake really, really well. They're good texturally for cake. Like they've got that structural integrity from the coarse grating. Hopefully you wouldn't finely grate a carrot for your carrot cake unless specifically directed to, because there's so much liquid in them. If you finally grate them, they're going to start leaching really, really quickly. Whereas if you do a nice coarse grate on that big side of your grater, you know which one I mean, the round side, then they won't start losing all of that water. And also one thing about carrot cakes that I think is worth mentioning is, and vegetable cakes in general, which I'm pretty sure I've spoken about, is that you would rarely use butter in a carrot cake mix. You would use oil, and that's because of the acidity and the liquid that is in those vegetables can split butter and you end up with a slightly drier cake, whereas with the oil it's much easier to emulsify and it goes in really nicely and they stay super, super moist. And finally, it goes really well with cream cheese.
I was going to say the whole time I can just think about cream cheese.
The
frosting.
icing, the cream cheese icing,
The
so
best
good.
icing I've
No,
never
I think
wanted.
that's why I don't like them, is the cream cheese
What?
icing. It's just
You are
the-
incorrect.
It's
Your
the
opinion is wrong.
perfect marriage of cake and yummy thing on top of cake.
I think because it gets stuck in my moustache. I have to eat it upside down.
Shave your moustache, Jack.
Yeah. And finally, let's talk about carrots and moisture in your fridge.
Nice.
Ooh.
So I don't know if you've ever had the classic occurrence where you've bought a bag of carrots, you've used one in a recipe, and then you've got 5 carrots just hanging around in your fridge for quite a long time.
Yes.
And they get really like floppy and spongy. Inevitably, you end up binning it. I wanted to show you what you can do. How to save a floppy carrot.
Nice.
Top tip.
It's as simple as pop it in a bowl of water.
Here's one I made earlier.
Here's one I made earlier. So
So how long have you left this for?
about 45 minutes. I'd say an hour submerged is preferable. Basically, you can feel that the bottom now is no longer flaccid, turgid.
Wow.
But the top, which hasn't had any water contact, is still quite soft. The fridge is very dry. A normal home fridge is quite a dry environment. And basically all of that delicious moisture inside has soaked out in your salad drawer. So yeah, just bung them in some water. You could store them in water, but I don't think it's necessary, and that's kind of annoying to have a bowl of water in your fridge.
might
Some
go
people
rotten.
do that with herbs.
For herbs, I think it is really good. I've actually lazily never done it until recently. I now have a jar of fresh herbs in my fridge door and I'm really loving it.
Nice.
Makes me feel really like Martha Stewart.
Okay, it's time for our second lunchbox, and this week that comes from Manu.
Today I have brought baby food.
Nice.
2 types. We have a mushy version and a crunchy version.
Okay.
Would anyone like to try?
Definitely.
sure.
Can I try the crunchy dipped into the mushy?
Oh, go for it.
Oh,
So I brought carrot mush and carrot sticks.
Wow, that tastes of absolutely nothing.
it's probably very underseasoned, right?
Well, that's a big problem.
Today I wanted to talk about the fact if we ate too much of these foods, we could turn orange. Like a carrot.
Okay.
There's something in carrots which is really, really good for us, but if we eat too much of it, we do turn orange. And this is carotene, which is the pigment in carrots that makes them orange.
Carotene, like limonene in the oranges episode.
Exactly. So there's alpha and beta carotene, and they're carotenoids. And they do really, really important things in plants and humans. So in plants, they help them photosynthesize. Just like green chlorophyll, all plants will have both of these kinds of pigments, so carotenoids and chlorophyll, just at varying concentrations. And they absorb different wavelengths of light. So it basically covers them throughout the light spectrum. You're always going to get some kind of energy from the sun.
Great.
What's really cool about carotene is that it also works like sun cream for plants. So it basically kind of redirects sunlight energy and dissipates it throughout the plant so it doesn't burn. In the parts of the plant that are too exposed to the sun.
So it's like a sun tan.
In a way, it's kind of similar.
Does fake tan have a lot of carotene in then?
Oh, you know, I think a lot of that is henna,
Oh,
which
interesting.
is also naturally
Comes
derived.
from a plant, yeah.
But you can see carotene in plants that aren't orange in the winter. When the chlorophyll in them breaks down and they go yellow and red, that is the existing carotene that's exposed. So that's always there.
Right.
And carotene's really present in lots of different kinds of food and veg, like broccoli, really high in carotene.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, but it's so heavily chlorophylled as well. It kind of covers it up.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we know so much about carotene and vitamins in general is because of a scientist called Paul Carrère, a Russian organic chemist who was alive in the late 1800s. He died in 1971.
Okay.
And he won a Nobel Prize in 1937 for his research on carotene, alpha and beta carotene, and how it was transformed into vitamin A in the body.
Did he name it after himself, Mr. Carrère?
Oh, yeah, because also etymologically, it's very... no, so he actually named carotene after carrots.
Got it. Yeah, no, that does make more sense.
It does make a bit more sense. So he found out that in the body, we transform carotene into vitamin A. And this is super, super important for our eye health, our immune system, and our skin health. So if you have too little of this vitamin, you can go blind. Your skin can like completely not fall apart, but it becomes really, really unhealthy, like really, really dry. And you can get sick all the time because your immune system is completely kaput.
Yeah, if you have too much, your skin also falls off. Remember the offal episode?
Oh,
So it's the polar bear's liver has too much vitamin A.
gross. Lovely. So yeah, too much or too little vitamin A, very bad for you.
Thankfully, the window is quite large, right?
It's really large. But if you eat specifically too much carotene, so this pigment that helps you produce vitamin A, you can literally turn orange.
No way.
This would be more noticeable if you have lighter skin.
Yes, that's a good point, yeah.
And the reason I bought baby food is because it's actually quite a common condition in children. So their palms will go orange, their noses will go orange. It's really, it looks quite cute. And I'm saying it looks cute because it's often completely benign. It's not dangerous. You just need to stop feeding them so much orangey food and they'll be fine. You can also tell the difference between carotenoderma, as it's called in the UK, this condition when you turn orange, and jaundice, where you also turn kind of yellowy orange by looking at someone's eyes. So someone who's just eaten too many carrots will have normal scleras, the whites of your eyes. Someone with jaundice will have yellow eyes. And jaundice is also quite common in kids, or like newborns who have livers that don't function properly yet. So they find it harder to filter out all of the
Bilirubin.
Exactly, all of the bilirubin or bile, like you said. Or if you have liver failure, lots of different reasons you could have jaundice.
I remember in the 90s, my favourite time of my childhood, there was a big scandal because there was this drink, Sunny Delight. I'm sure you guys, fellow millennials, will know. Sunny Delight took the world by storm. It was so popular. It was this very processed, sugary orange drink. But then, basically, this girl turned orange.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
I remember that.
That is exactly right.
Have you got the details?
So in 1999, there was a girl who turned bright orange because she was drinking about 1.5 litres of Sunny D a day.
I think because she didn't get sick, that's why it was quite funny to laugh at her.
Yeah. It was a bit of a PR disaster.
The last thing I wanted to talk about was golden rice.
Golden rice?
Golden rice. In some areas of the world, like the Philippines, they have issue with kids with vitamin A deficiencies. And one of the things they're doing now, this is really, really recent because there's been so much hullabaloo about genetically modified plants, is growing rice with loads of carotene in it. So it's really, really bright orange. It's beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And they're using this to encourage kids to eat more vitamin A.
Wow.
That's so clever. To be honest, clever. I would eat that for myself. I'm not a kid.
I want to eat that too.
Yeah.
I think I'd be much more likely to get to the point where my skin goes orange with rice than carrots, or something like that, actually.
Oh, that's very
You've
true.
overeaten the orange rice and now you are orange yourself.
Have you seen the quantity of rice Jack's eating when he eats rice?
So 200 grams dry.
It's so much in one sitting.
That is a lot, Jack.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, but I do get hungry.
I know you have a big appetite. I know. I respect it, honestly. I think now that the world really wants to have very Instagrammable egg yolks, egg companies have been increasingly using carotene in the diets of their chickens to get those really red, orangey yolks, either by actually feeding them carrots or by feeding them feed with carotene in.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to say injecting the eggs with grated carrot.
I don't know how you would inject a nice, incredibly delicate shell with something, but sure.
In some ways, it's much healthier to fry a carrot than to eat it raw.
Now you're speaking my language. Tell me more.
Because the carotene is lipid soluble.
Yes.
So it's more bioavailable. Say if you were going to eat like a carrot stick raw versus a carrot that had been sauteed in butter, you'd get way more of that carotene and be able to make more vitamin A from the tastier version of that carrot.
That is so validating to know.
Okay, it's time for our third and final lunchbox, and this week that is mine. I've brought you guys some carrot fudge.
I love fudge.
And I love
Carrot fudge. Ooh,
Wow.
it's looking wobbly.
Did you make this?
I did, yeah. I made it with my own fair hands.
Whoa.
It's bright orange.
Oh.
I've cut it into as squares as well as I can.
I would go more on the jelly
It's very jiggly.
texture. It's not sweetened, I've noticed.
I took a big bite
Not very
of that.
fudgy, if anything.
It's a bit citrusy.
Yeah, good call. There are only 3 ingredients. You might be able to guess them.
Carrot,
Orange.
gelatin.
Yeah, you've got them.
So sorry, in what world does this qualify as fudge?
In a world of rationing, in a world of scarcity. So I want to take you back to the 1940s, World War II, Britain. So rationing comes into place in January 1940. The war started, 5 months earlier, September 1939. Basically, the government realised that we got the majority of our food from imports, and a lot of those imports wouldn't be possible with Europe at war. So it's looking to try and pivot to being as much self-sufficient as can possibly be done. And one of the things they do is limit the amount of food people eat. So the government basically controlled the maximum amounts of certain things like meat and butter and milk and sugar, crucially, that we could have a week. And it was done through government issued booklets with little coupons in that you could take to the shops. It was basically kind of a pseudo currency, but it was all carefully calculated by scientists. And actually, they've done studies since, and the generation that grew up during the war are much healthier because they were eating less sugar and fat and getting all their fiber and calcium because they were drinking a lot more milk. It kind of made everything unilateral, like all their nutritional needs catered for, but not too much.
I used to think that COVID was kind of the closest equivalent situation we have to like desperate times, desperate measures.
Food-wise, I feel like the opposite approach to eating and drinking for the lockdown.
The supply
period.
was a lot better.
And there were these things called victory gardens. So basically the British public were encouraged to grow most of their own vegetables, which obviously weren't subject to rationing. Lord Walton, who was the Minister of Food during the war, and I was obviously quite biased, but he said, "This is a food war. Every extra row of vegetables in allotment saves shipping. The battle on the kitchen front cannot be won without the help from the kitchen garden." With sugar rationed, every adult got 8 ounces a week, about 225 grams. So I don't know how many cakes that makes, but to me that doesn't sound like much, especially.
It would make one small cake.
Okay.
And
But one small cake a week isn't bad, and that's per
Yeah,
adult.
spread over
Anyway.
the
But I think-
entire, and you can't eat anything else sweet, just that one cake.
Well, this is the thing. People did start to look at other ways to sweeten their life. Absolutely ludicrous ways around to get their sugar fix. So one of the things they did was raspberry jam, which was a small amount of raspberry, but mostly turnip and red food dye, and then fake wood chip pips. There are people employed to like shave bits of birch wood into what looks like raspberry pips.
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and
that's
they
a
made-
lot of effort to fake a raspberry pip. They're tiny as well.
Absolutely. And then there was marzipan, which was mostly flour.
It was mostly pan.
It was mostly flour with a little bit of almond essence, and they chopped that into squares and give them for Christmas. There were carrot lollies you could get. There's some great pictures of these small children queuing up for carrot lollies. And there's another picture where they've got basically a carrot on a stick that's been refrigerated. And they're looking slightly disappointed. And one of the things they made was carrot fudge, which you've all just enjoyed and contains no sugar. Yeah, I'm putting words in your mouth. So this is a recipe from Colleen Moulding's Frugal Recipes from Wartime Britain. But I found it on the Carrot Museum website.
The Carrot Museum.
It only exists online,
so
but it's
sweet.
an absolute treasure trove of information. I'm sure you found this in your research, didn't you?
The curator, John Stolarczyk, he said that people were doing so well at growing carrots in wartime. At one point, we had a surplus of 100,000 tons
Yes,
of
I
the
read that.
vegetable.
Jesus
We were
Christ.
like, this is a great emergency food, and we took it way too far.
So the recipe is just grated carrots and a little bit of water and some orange essence. I actually had a whole mandarin that I squeezed in, but I imagine in the wartime you'd use concentrated orange juice. And then once it's been cooked down and warmed up, you just slide a gelatin leaf in and leave it to set.
It's a loose definition of the word fudge.
Yeah, it's very loose.
If there were ever a reason to want the war to end more quickly, having to eat.
Yes, an incentive to fight harder.
Yeah. Just as someone that grew up with a lot of Asian desserts, I was expecting this to be as sweet as carrot halwa.
Yeah, I was going to
which
say
is
halwa.
Delicious.
Yeah.
And there
What's
is
that made of?
carrots and sugar and probably condensed milk, but there is a lot of sugar in it. And
Yeah.
it's so good. So I
Well, sorry to disappoint.
You know when your brain is so primed for a flavour and then
Yeah.
it's the opposite of that.
I feel like you would be able to make a much sweeter version of this without any extra sugar. You just have to cook down carrot juice for a really, really long time to get it to a sort of like reduced syrupy consistency and then use that.
Okay.
I imagine.
But this leads me on to my... Okay, so I think there are multiple reasons why carrots won the war for the Allies.
Okay.
Was there even one?
Yeah, well, okay, the first one is we had a surplus, okay? What do you do with a surplus? You have to encourage people to eat more carrots. It's quite a well-known story. You may have heard about the rumour that carrots help you see in the dark. And that's why British fighter pilots were so good at shooting down the Axis powers in World War II.
It's also the only reason I ate carrots from the year of 1991 to 1999.
It was kind of known that vitamin A was good for your eyesight. And certainly if you have a deficiency in vitamin A, you are bad at seeing in low light. The other factor was we'd invented radar. And this is before the Germans. And so a lot of our pilots were shooting down German planes in the dark, and they didn't really know why. For a while, the Brits had the edge over the Germans for a short amount of time, and they didn't want to admit what the secret technology was. So they perpetuated this myth that eating carrots helped you see in the dark, and that our World War II fighter pilots were just eating too many carrots.
I mean, like you said, it is a little bit true because that's apparently the first thing that goes with your vision if you have a vitamin A deficiency is your nighttime vision.
Yes.
So it's kind of a
I love the way
tiny
that humans will reverse a fact to make it true.
So that's the most famous contribution carrots have given to the war effort. I think there are a couple of others. So the British Broadcasting Corporation has a World Service, and it still exists. It's basically a radio channel that goes on 24 hours in English and goes all the way around the world. In 1944, just before D-Day, the Allied invasion of occupied France from Britain to the beaches at Normandy.
Yeah.
They were doing a bit of French talk radio. It was going out to France. And basically, there was a code, and the broadcast was Les carottes sont cuites. Les carottes sont cuites. Je répète, les carottes sont cuites, which means
The carrots are cooked.
the carrots are cooked. Exactly. And so this was the sign for the local French resistance, who were anti-Nazi, to step up their sabotage efforts because D-Day was happening, sort of attack any way they could find, guerrilla warfare, basically.
Classic.
Why? Why carrots?
Well, it's
Who
actually-
chose this?
It's actually a phrase in French, which is kind of analogous to your goose is cooked.
Because that's kind of like you're done for, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like,
I think traditionally carrots are the hardest thing to cook in the stew. So by the time the carrots are done, everything else is done. Or yes, the table's laid. That's the kind of the final signal that you can start to eat.
yeah.
So it kind of made sense. And obviously it went over the Germans' heads.
Yeah, I love
Because
that.
they don't eat carrots.
Well, they don't speak French, I was going to say. But yeah,
Good bit of code working.
absolutely. And the third reason I think carrots contributed to the war effort. Now, this was a less...
I think what you said was carrots won us the war. that was a much more bold
Okay,
statement.
this is true. I've watered down my claim because this one didn't really work, but it was an interesting plan. So the British Secret Service worked with the precursor to the CIA, and they managed to concoct a plan to inject Hitler's carrots with estrogen.
What?
The theory was that if they could try and make him a bit more feminine, he'd get a little less aggressive.
It sounds like a plot of like Spy Kids
Yeah,
or something
it does.
like that.
It sounds very far-fetched. And they also thought that his moustache might fall off,
Oh, for God's sake.
which was very important to his brand.
Did they not know what estrogen does?
Well, I don't think they really did,
So
no.
funny.
So basically they managed to bribe one of his gardeners to inject the estrogen into his carrots. And it didn't work. And so we don't know whether the gardener just took the bribe and didn't bother, or whether the estrogen got into the carrots, but then when it was cooked, it didn't really do anything. Or maybe the estrogen all went into Hitler and it just didn't really change his mood.
Well, it's quite a slow working hormone. It can't just,
Exactly.
it's not like, woohoo, I'm a
I
woman.
know.
Like,
I also
yeah, go
love
on.
how they didn't go for any of the cocktail of crazy drugs.
yeah, what about kill him with some arsenic?
No, you're right. Why didn't they put like cyanide in his carrots? I think cyanide has a taste, and so does arsenic. So
Oh,
does
is it
strychnine.
the almondy?
Almondy, yeah. And B, Hitler had employed a taster at this point because he was scared of being poisoned. So if the taster tried it and then keeled over, then you know.
The taster tried it and grew a comely bosom.
I think his tasters did have breasts anyway. I think they were a group
Really?
of women.
Oh, for God's sake.
So they wouldn't
He's
know.
Just,
Yeah.
That's just so sexist. To make the women die for fucking Hitler. Oh,
This isn't the worst thing he did.
it's not, but I'm annoyed about it.
The men were all dying on the Eastern Front. I don't know where you'd rather die, but
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it didn't work, and it does look quite old-fashioned to like. Apparently, the plan was basically inspired by the fact that Hitler's sister was working for him as a secretary, and she was quite meek and mild-mannered. And they were like, "Well, this is clearly the genetic. This is what Hitler would be if he was a woman."
This is so sexist.
This obviously sounds a little far-fetched, but they were desperate for ideas, and they were coming up with some quite far-fetched ideas, weren't they?
Yeah, well, actually, my grandmother was involved in a very successful ruse
Your
during
grandma's
World War-
Hitler's sister.
My grandmother, her name was Patricia Trahan, and she was part of the team who successfully pulled off Operation Mincemeat.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so cool.
So she worked in the Admiralty. Basically, Operation Mincemeat was a very famous wartime operation where basically they planted a dead body in the sea off the coast of Nazi-occupied Spain, down in the south in Huelva. And the body of a homeless man that they'd found drowned in the Thames, they think. They made up this whole fake persona of a pilot. This fake soldier had upon his person various different papers discussing top secret Allied movements during the war, which were actually all fake. And some of them were written by my grandmother because they got people to sort of like sign various things with different hands and, and if I'm right in thinking, the Allies were planning to land in Sicily and the Germans kind of knew that and were ready for that. So all these papers on this fake dead body suggested that the Allies were actually going to go via Greece. So the Nazis and Hitler took the bait, moved over to Greece, and the Allies
Left the door open in Sicily.
did get to land in Sicily. And guess who was stationed just off Sicily? My grandfather, who had never met my granny yet.
No way.
He was in the Navy. And so
What a meet cute.
they did then later
Operation
during the war,
Mincemeat cute.
Yeah, I know. They did then meet a year or so later and got engaged on VE Day.
Oh,
sweet.
it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Okay, that's it for this week's edition of Lunchbox Envy. You can follow our socials for foodie facts and podcast updates. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lunchbox Envy Pod.
You can also get in touch and send us your facts, recipes, and questions by emailing us lunchbox@qi.com. Whilst you're at it, visit the Carrot Museum online as well. It's a great fun.
Yeah, you'll lose an afternoon, but worth it.
Down the rabbit hole.
So, Rosie, do you have any parting recipes to give to us?
Yes, in my cookbook, Good Time Cooking, there is actually a very, very good carrot cake recipe.
Okay.
It's actually a carrot tres leches with Horlicks, so malted milk. And it is very good. It's like the carrot cake party cake of dreams.
Amazing.
Recommend.
Well, that's great. So that's all for us at the Carrot HQ. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Lunchbox Envy was hosted by Manu Henriot, Rosie MacKean, and me, Jack Chambers. It was produced by Alex Bell. This has been a quite interesting podcast.